Free Falling by Grinch1234. Summary. A wing AU in which Chuuya is forced into having a roommate, Dazai falls off of buildings, and Oda makes them quit the mafia. Dazai stares at the paper in his hands, looks up at Mori, then returns his attention to the paper. "This is stupid," he announces after his 5th reading of Mori's latest declaration. "It is practical." Mori returns, a sickeningly sweet smile on his slimy lips. Dazai's own lip curls. Whatever. Fine. He knows how to pick his battles, and the glint in Mori's eyes says that this one he will not win. Without saying another word, Dazai spins on his heels and stomps out of the boss's office. He can feel Mori's gaze linger between his shoulder blades. Dazai fights to stifle an instinctive shudder. Wasting no time, because it's his 17th birthday, he was promised the day off and is thus already annoyed Mori called him in just for this. Dazai marches straight to Chuuya's apartment to deliver the news. Since he knows his hot-headed partner is not going to take this well, Dazai waits outside and knocks politely instead of breaking in. He waits impatiently, shifting heel to toe over and over while the slug takes his sweet time getting to the door. When Chuuya does crack the door open, surprise flashes across his features. "Dazai, since when do you know how to knock?" "I don't." Dazai shoves the paper in Chuuya's face and slithers past his partner while Chuuya is distracted with reading the declaration. Knowing it will take Chuuya a few minutes to read everything a first time, curse Mori out, and read it over again, Dazai patters through the entryway and flops on the couch that faces Chuuya's TV, letting his mind float. This must be a punishment of some kind. But he can't think of anything he did recently that would upset Mori. He was even being extra unbothersome since he didn't want to lose his day off. So really, Mori has no good reason for... "What? I don't want to have to be your roommate!" Dazai grimaces. "Well, I didn't ask for this either." As if he wants to lose his quiet time and spend his nights getting yelled at. He gets enough of that during the day. Chuuya starts pacing in the entryway of his apartment, grumbling under his breath, and reading the paper a second time. Then Chuuya halts. The abrupt end of the repetitive noise of Chuuya's angry stomps draws Dazai's attention. "What?" The chibi's brow is furrowed, like he doesn't understand what he's reading. "Why does this say you don't have a current address?" "Huh? Oh, that." Dazai waves a hand. "My shipping container doesn't have one. I'm off the grid and I like it that way." Chuuya blinks slowly, then gives Dazai that special little look of his that makes him feel stupid. He hates that look. "What?" Dazai cocks his head and raises an eyebrow, grinning in a way he knows infuriates his partner. "Have I never invited you over? My bad, I'll host the sleepover next time." He sputters and shoves aside the pillow that was thrown into his face thanks to gravity. "You're a moron." Chuuya deadpans. Dazai tries to glare on and scowl at his partner. Unfortunately, after working together for nearly 2 years, Chuuya is used to Dazai's glare, so it is horribly ineffective. "Like seriously," Chuuya continues. "I thought you were stupid before for a lot of the weird things you do. But come on, Dazai. You live in a shipping container and you don't get why that might be a problem?" "No, it's worked great for the last 4 years." 4?! So I have no idea why Mori is pitching a fit now. How annoying. Dazai sighs, sinking further into Chuuya's comfy couch. He is rather fond of this couch, though Chuuya gets annoyed if Dazai breaks in during the middle of the night to sleep on it, so he usually limits his naps here to once a month, or twice if he is feeling particularly daring. "Right, well, I'm not kicking you back to a shipping container, so you can stay, I guess. Make your own meals and clean up after yourself and all that. I'm not living with a slob. And, Chuuya fidgets with the paper in his hands, averting his gaze. "I sweep the floors every night, so if you molt, that's okay." "Ah, right. They never have had that talk, have they?" Honestly, Dazai never cared if Chuuya had wings, and figured his partner felt the same. However, given the hesitation in his partner's tone, maybe Chuuya does care. For regular folks, walking around with their wings out, feathers styled and whatnot, is no big deal. No one looks twice at someone with or without their wings out, unless said wings are draped in hideous wing jewelry that they think is stylish and is made for drawing attention. For those in the city's underbelly, wings are hidden. The size of someone's wings shows how dangerous they are. Those with larger wings are avoided, while those with smaller wings become targets. For most, it is simply easier to tuck their wings away and not reveal them to anyone. When they do choose to show their wings to someone, it has to be someone they trust, because allowing someone else that knowledge could be deadly in Yokohama's darker side. Considering the topic of each other's wings has never once come up, Dazai just assumed Chuuya didn't trust him enough to show him his wings, or rather that he didn't have any. Yet looking around the apartment with a closer eye, Dazai notes the red-black feathers scattered around, and the fact that Chuuya is wearing an open-back tank top. He must have had his wings out before Dazai got here. Ah! Dazai jolts, realizing Chuuya is still looking at him, waiting for a response. Yes, that. Don't mind me, he hums. You'll never see mine. Oh. A strange look crosses Chuuya's face, far too quick for Dazai to interpret. Fine, whatever, like I care. I don't have a second bedroom, so I guess you get the couch. There's some extra bedding in the linen closet, you know which one. I'm going to my room. The redhead stomps off and slams the door to his bedroom shut a lot harder than necessary. Dazai frowns after his partner. What did he say to upset Chuuya this time? Well, whatever it is, it'll blow over by the morning. Chibi doesn't hold grudges for long. Dazai, realizing he never took his shoes off, toes them off and tosses them towards the door. Flakes of dried mud land between the couch and his target. He spends about 5 seconds debating the merits of getting up and cleaning. His new, unwitting roommate is a stickler for cleanliness, but ultimately decides that it's his birthday and his gift to himself was supposed to be a handful of sleeping pills in the quiet of his shipping container. But a nap on Chuuya's couch doesn't sound too bad either. A hand lands on his wrist and squeezes. Dazai's eyes fly open as he snaps awake. He isn't able to stifle his yelp as he jerks, trying to yank his wrist from. Warm blue eyes look at him, confused. The grip on his wrist drops away. Oh, he mumbles. It's just Chuuya. Yeah? Chuuya frowns. Who else would it be? Obviously, Dazai doesn't answer that. Go away, slug. I'm sleepy. Dazai flops back down on the couch, bundling his arms under his head so it forms a makeshift pillow. Oh, okay. Wait, no. I came over here for a reason. Though, honestly, I didn't think you were actually asleep. You always seem to be fake sleeping. But anyway, why is there already mud on my floor? 'Cause my shoes are muddy? He doesn't open his eyes. Dazai is familiar with Chuuya's glower and does not need to see it to visualize the look he is currently receiving. Dazai! He decides to stay limp on the couch and ignore Chuuya's screeching. It's been a while since he had a whole day to just sleep. His nap may have already been interrupted, but there is still most of a day left that can be used for remaining gloriously unconscious. But 5 minutes later, Chuuya is prattling on. Chibi, just be quiet. I want to sleep. Well, I don't want mud on my floors. I'll clean it tomorrow, Dazai mumbles, trying to appease his new roommate. What? No, don't be lazy, Dazai. It's going to take a moment to clean. Just do it. Clearly, Chuuya has never seen Dazai try to clean things. It'll take at least 15 minutes, and that's with supervision. Oda says Dazai is the worst cleaner he's ever met, which is saying something considering he lives with 5 gross little gremlins that molt and sneeze and exist all over the place. You do it. Dazai is pretty sure this won't work because it never has gotten him out of anything, but it's still worth a shot. It's my birthday. I want to sleep. It's silent for a long moment, long enough that Dazai cracks open his eye and peeks to see if Chuuya is still there. He is. The chibi is gaping at him, stunned. What? Dazai frowns. Are you gonna let me sleep now? Maybe he's lucky and birthdays mean something to the slug, enough so that he'll leave Dazai alone. Are you kidding? Chuuya sputters. It's your birthday and you didn't tell me? Dazai gives a small shrug of his shoulder. It didn't matter. Didn't? Chuuya cuts himself off with a strangled sound. Okay, this is fine. It's barely the afternoon. We can salvage this. I guess now that I think about it, we never celebrated your birthday any other year either, but still. Salvage what? Dazai sighs. Chuuya, I really do just want to sleep. I booked the day off weeks in advance. Just leave me in peace. Then, after a moment's debate, "Please." Chuuya stills, his bright eyes squint as his lips purse. Then his hands plant themselves on his hips and Dazai knows he won't be left alone. "I am tempted to agree solely because this is the first time I've ever heard you say please for anything, but also I'm not going to let you sleep away your whole birthday like a loser. So you've got about half an hour while I go shopping for the necessary things, so use it wisely." Chuuya starts putting his boots on. A dustpan and brush that glow red quickly sweep up the dirt Dazai's shoes left behind, and the slug slips out of his apartment, locking the door behind him. Dazai blinks at the closed door, shrugs, and flops back on the couch. He'll let Chuuya tire himself out doing whatever it is he's doing. Dazai is still getting his nap time. Clanging and cursing draw Dazai from his doze. He couldn't fully fall asleep after Chuuya left. There was something too weird about being left alone at Chuuya's apartment for him to fall asleep, knowing that the redhead isn't existing somewhere in the same place. It's too open and vulnerable here without Chuuya. How annoying. His shipping container never had that problem. From his place on the couch, Dazai watches, rather curiously, as Chuuya shuffles his way into the apartment with 5 heavy-looking bags draping off his arms. He wonders for a brief second why Chuuya wouldn't just use his ability to carry the bags, then realizes that Chibi probably counts buying an absurd amount of groceries as exercise or something equally dull and pointless. "You up?" Chuuya calls as he stomps to the kitchen. Dazai groans. "Great, come on, we're making you a cake, and I got some of that horrible canned crab you like to go with dinner." Pushing up off the cushions, Dazai glares at the redhead's back from over the armrest of the couch. Chuuya doesn't seem to register the look and continues pattering around, tucking groceries away in the cupboards or fridge. He leaves a select few ingredients on the marble island in the center of the kitchen. Well, Chuuya should know by now not to expect Dazai to be much of use in a kitchen, so he wiggles back into the comfy spot he carved out on the couch. Maybe now that Chuuya is back, he can nap again. "Dazai, get over here and help me bake you a cake." "You don't want my help," Dazai mumbles. For a single, blissful moment, Dazai thinks Chuuya gave up. Instead, his ear gets pinched between 2 fingers and tucked. "Ow!" Dazai whines, quickly sitting up so Chuuya doesn't rip his ear off. "Ow! Bad Chibi!" "Come on, Mackerel, we're baking together." Chuuya lets Dazai's ear go and marches over to the kitchen. Dazai, reluctant but unwilling to let his poor ears be ripped off, follows. "Why?" Dazai pouts, massaging his ear. "I saw online that baking or cooking together is supposed to be a good team bonding." Chuuya shrugs. "Also, I don't think you know how to make anything, and even knowing how to bake a cake is better than nothing." "Oda says I'm not to be trusted with an oven," Dazai tries. "So, really, I should go back to napping and leave you without a house fire." "Oda isn't here." Chuuya rolled his eyes. "And it can't be that bad, but if you're that worried, I'll let you do the easy stuff." Dazai huffed, still unconvinced. However, Chuuya has always stubbornly believed in people, so maybe setting fire to the Chibi's kitchen is the only way to get that message across. "Fine." "Great. You like chocolate, right?" Dazai squints. "No, why would you think that?" he asks, suspicious. He doesn't recall ever mentioning such a thing to his partner. "Dazai, I've known you for 2 years. I know you take the chocolates Tachihara brings me, and while I thought you were being rude at first, I saw some wrappers in the trash. You aren't as sly as you think." "Darn, guess he'll need to step up his chocolate stealing game." "Yeah, right. I wouldn't want your gross slug germ chocolates." Dazai lies, scoffing and tipping his toes up and crossing his arms defensively. "Sure, whatever you say, Dazai." Chuuya hums. "Okay, here." A small cup is shoved into Dazai's hand, and a bag of flour is slid his way along the island surface. "Measure out 3 of these and add them to this big bowl." After taking a moment to glare sternly at both the cup and the bag of flour to ensure their cooperation, as much as he doesn't want to help, burning Chuuya's kitchen is a good way to get kicked out of the apartment, and Dazai isn't sure if Mori is willing to allow him to return to his lovely shipping container, so it's best to not risk it quite yet. Dazai hesitantly digs the cup into the bag and dumps the little mound into the bowl. He repeats the motion twice more, then looks to Chuuya for further instructions. He finds the redhead gaping at him. You didn't measure." "Actually, I guess I shouldn't be shocked." Good thing that's the first ingredient. Chuuya takes the bowl and dumps the flour back into the bag where it came from, ruining all of Dazai's hard work. He gasps. Rude! Dazai whines. Chibi is cruel, making me do work then throwing it away. Calm down, you drama queen. Chuuya swipes the cup from Dazai's hand and uses his hip to bump Dazai aside and take his place at the counter. Like this. Though Dazai pouts and complains some more, he does watch how Chuuya overfills the cup, then grabs a butter knife to tap the side of the cup so the flour settles properly, and uses the flat edge of the knife to wipe away the excess. Only then does the flour get added to the big bowl. Here. Chuuya hands the cup and knife over. Try again. Fine. Dazai sniffs. It's silent save for the bit of shuffling as Dazai copies what Chuuya did and adds 2 more scoops of flour to the bowl. Chuuya watches him, but the chibi's eyes are light and amused, not trying to pick apart his performance, so Dazai doesn't mind. Should we turn on music? Chuuya asks once Dazai proudly finishes with the flour. I've got a pop playlist. Dazai stares, his lip parted in shock. What? I know you like pop. You hum along when you think I'm not paying attention. Betrayal. This is betrayal in its purest form. And from his own subconscious? I do not like pop music, Dazai hisses. That's just preposterous. Yeah, okay, sure. Let me go find my speaker. Dazai scowls at Chuuya's retreating form as the chibi dashes into his bedroom. He returns only moments later with a bright blue Bluetooth speaker in his hand. Alright, I've got mute. Chuuya's cut off as the ringing of a phone blares through the apartment. It's a loud, annoying buzz, and Dazai knows exactly who is calling him. Great. He sighs and stomps over to pick his phone up from the couch. It must have fallen from his pocket during his nap, and, after sticking his tongue out at the caller ID, answers. What, Mori? It's supposed to be my day off. Ah, well, I'm sure you don't mind helping the port mafia out a little today, do you, Osamu? Ew. Dazai's nose crinkles. Just a quick favor, really. An hour at most. Less if you bring Chuuya along. It's not like this is a choice. Fine, text me when, where, and why. I don't want to hear your voice any longer. Oh my, words can hurt, Osa. Dazai hangs up. His phone buzzes 2 minutes later with the mission details. After skimming them over, Dazai sighs. Hey Chibi, I think this cake thing needs to go on pause. He tosses his phone over to his partner for Chuuya to read the message Mori sent. Great. His partner grumbles after reading it. Well, at least we only got to the flour. That's easy enough to put back, so nothing is going to waste. We'll restart later. Okay. Dazai agrees. Then he freezes. Not that I care or anything. He adds on. Chuuya doesn't say anything, but Dazai can practically hear his partner's disbelieving look. 33 minutes later, Dazai is mentally cursing Mori with all the foulest language he knows as he and Chuuya are hiding on the rooftop of a 3-story building, bullets bouncing off the chunk of rubble Chuuya had positioned in front of them. A simple transaction, Mori said. No conflict, Mori said. Bring Chuuya along just as a precaution, Mori said. Dazai should know by now that Mori is a filthy liar. Things blew up the moment Dazai and Chuuya arrived on scene. Bullets flying, people dying, the whole song and dance. Naturally, as the one of them that is not essentially bulletproof, Dazai made a tactical retreat. Along the way, he spotted a sniper and snuck off to take care of them before they could become a nuisance, and Chuuya joined him on the rooftop once Dazai took the sniper out. Now, the Port Mafia goons that were here earlier are all dead and they are still being shot at. There's only 11 of them left, Dazai says, counting the bullets that hit Chuuya's makeshift shield. I've got 5 bullets left. I've got lots of bullets, but they aren't in my range. Chuuya replies, gesturing to the rubble shield that's glowing red and keeping the bullets fired their way trapped for later use. So you just need them closer? Dazai, I know that tone. Don't you dare do anything stupid. Yoo-hoo! Dazai sings songs, peeking over the shield and waving cheerfully. Hello, over there! You have us at quite the disadvantage. Could you please come a bit closer so we can see the ugly faces of our adversaries? Fingers curl into his coat and yank him down just in time for a round of bullets to fly where his head was moments before. Thank you, Chibi. Stop doing stupid things, Chuuya snaps back. Now we need a... Is that a bazooka? What? Dazai peeks over the shield just in time for said shield to get blown up. The force of the small explosion knocks them both backwards, and suddenly Dazai strongly regrets being so close to the edge of the building. Chuuya glows red and hovers in the air. Dazai falls. Dazai, we really need a Dazai? Dazai! If he were less concerned with the pavement swiftly approaching his face, Dazai would wave to his clearly panicked partner and say he'll be fine. Chuuya drops after him, and really there is no point in that. No longer human would cancel out Chuuya's ability, and it has been scientifically proven that a pair of wings can only hold one person. So, even if he could get to Dazai in time, Chuuya can't catch him. Besides, 2 stories is not enough to kill him, just enough to hurt. And oh boy, does it ever hurt. Dazai tries to do the whole land on feet and tuck into a roll to take away some of the momentum from the fall thing, but mostly just breaks his legs and face plants very inelegantly. Something in his face cracks too, so there goes his nose. Once again, he fully blames stupid Mori. This is not how he wanted his 17th birthday to go. Dazai takes a deep breath and tries to peel himself off the ground, only to black out before he gets an elbow under himself. Waking up in a hospital is bad. No one likes doing that. Waking up in a hospital bed and seeing Mori's slimy face first thing is 100 times worse. Ah, good. I was wondering when you were going to wake up, Osamu. Dazai closes his eyes and wishes to go unconscious again. Now, don't be so shy. You wouldn't want to keep your little friends waiting, would you? They've been so worried. While he does crack his good eye open, it's mostly for the express purpose of glowering at Mori. Just tell me, Dazai rasps. He's sore and not in the mood for Mori's games. Well, you did take quite the tumble, Osamu. You managed to break the tibia and fibula in your right leg. Your nose had to be reset and your right shoulder is dislocated. That's not to mention the number of scraps and bruises you've got. I've reset and casted the broken bones and I'm assigning you 4 weeks to bed rest to start. We'll do checkups periodically and adjust as needed, but you will not be taking any field jobs for at least this next month. Mori smiles at him. A shiver runs down Dazai's spine. I guess it really was good timing for you and Chuuya to move in together, I'd hate for you to be all alone in that tin can of yours when injured. Who knows what could have happened? Yeah. Dazai purses his lips and glares down at his legs. There is a thick plaster cast wrapped around it from toe to knee, pinning his bones in place. His right arm is stuck in a sling to keep his shoulder in place while it heals, which means crutches are out of the question. He'll either be carried or have to sit in a wheelchair to get out of here. Both are horrible options for the reputation of the demon prodigy. I suppose I ought to let your friends in now. I would love to keep you all to myself. You're so cute when you're pouting like this, but I fear Chuuya will make good on his threat to kick the door in. Dazai bites his tongue to stifle a laugh. Chuuya would definitely do that. Has done that. It was quite funny. I'll be in contact with the paperwork I'd like to fill out and the plans I'd like you to review over the next month. Mori sways out of the room with those annoying last words. Of course, Dazai doesn't get a break from the Port Mafia's work. He just gets to do the desk side of things for a while. How fun. Mere seconds after Mori leaves the room, the door is slammed open and a redhead. Dazai blinks, suddenly wondering if Mori forgot to tell him about a concussion, because he sees 2 redheads. Then they get closer and it makes sense. Oda? A tiny smile quirks his lips up. What are you doing here? Nakahara called. Oda replies. He told me you got hurt and you were in the infirmary, so I came. Oh. Dazai flicks a small look to Chuuya, who is glaring daggers at him. Thanks, Chibi. The glare increases. What did he do to annoy Chibi now? If anything, his partner should be scolding him for being so close to the edge of the building in the first place. Glaring is just rude. There is an awkward moment of silence as Dazai stares at Chuuya, waiting for his partner to say something. Oda, Chuuya finally says. Mind giving Dazai a snack? I'm sure he's hungry. Oh, I'm fine. Sure thing, I'll be right back. Oda's warm hand pats Dazai's uninjured shoulder, then he slips out of the infirmary. Dazai frowns. He doesn't like the way Chuuya is scowling at him. What? I'm annoyed I'm hurt too, so you don't need to be all scowly. Chuuya's eyes narrow and the chibi grabs a hold of the front of Dazai's shirt, hefting him off the bed too easily. Dazai bites his tongue to fight back a wince as his shoulder is jostled. "You complete, utter idiot!" Chuuya hisses. "What were you thinking?" "Ow," Dazai tries. Chuuya drops him with a huff. His shoulder throbs as it hits the pillow behind him. "Right, what did I expect? It's you after all." "Chuuya, what are you talking about?" He's too sore to try to guess why Chuuya is mad now. It could be anything from Dazai being injured to the fact that he's wearing mismatching socks today. "You fell!" Chuuya snaps. "You fell and injured yourself. Is that seriously better than trusting me? The person who has had your back unquestioningly for the last 2 years? I get you have something about not showing your wings, but come on, Dazai. Would you seriously rather be injured like this than trust me?" "Oh." "Chuuya," Dazai starts, his voice flat. "It's quite simple, really." "Fine, whatever. I don't care if you don't trust me. You don't trust anyone. I just think that after all this time, I deserve some sort of—" "I don't have wings." Chuuya's mouth clicks shut audibly. "I couldn't catch myself because I cannot fly." "Oh." Chuuya averts his eyes, nibbling on his bottom lip. Awkward silence quickly fills the room. Given he doesn't know what to say either, Dazai lets his eyes drift close and does his best to relax in the hospital bed. "Sorry," Chuuya whispers. That only serves to make the atmosphere tenser. The moment Oda returns with some snacks from the nearest vending machine, Chuuya slips out of the infirmary. Dazai keeps his eyes shut and doesn't watch his partner run away. A quiet movement draws Dazai to blink his eyes open anew. Oda has seated himself in the chair next to Dazai's bed, hands clasped in his lap. "You're awake." Oda smiles down at him. "How are you feeling? Are you hungry?" "No, I'm just sore," Dazai grumbles. "Annoyed, too. Instead of having a day off, I got broken bones for my birthday. Stupid Mori." "Oh, happy birthday. I'll get you a gift later." Dazai blinks. "Why?" Oda's smile softens. "Well, it's nice to get a gift on your birthday," he hums thoughtfully. "Maybe the kids will want to make you something. They've been rather crafty lately." "Ew." Dazai's nose wrinkles. "No thanks. I'm already injured. I don't need any diseases on top of that." "They don't carry disease, Dazai." "Yes, they do," Dazai whines. "They slobber all over me when I visit. I'm certain that's a condition of some kind." Oda chuckles. Traitor. How dare he laugh at Dazai's misery. "Is this because Sakura gave you a kiss last week? She just likes you, Dazai." "She's got drool all over my cheek," Dazai complains. "It was traumatic." "Well, I'll tell her to stick to hugs next time." Oda's amusement hasn't faded. Dazai scowls and slouches into bed as best as he can. There is a moment's pause, then Oda keeps talking. "They really do like you, you know. They always ask if you're coming over to visit soon. Apparently, I'm not nearly as good at preening their wings as you are." "Of course not," Dazai huffs. "Obviously, I'm the best at everything." "Obviously," Oda agrees. "Other than cooking or cleaning or—" "Oda!" Dazai whines, pouting at his friend. "Don't tell the world my weaknesses." Oda chuckles again and leans closer to rest his hand on Dazai's uninjured knee. It's warm. Dazai shifts his leg just slightly, pushing his knee into Oda's touch. The blanket moves with him, so he isn't as subtle as he would like, but Oda doesn't comment. Since Oda is responsible for 5 little children, he cannot stay the night with Dazai. Unfortunate, really, given being alone means that Mori will undoubtedly slink over and talk to him for a while, but Dazai huffs and shoos Oda away when his friend asks if he'll be okay. The gremlins might worry if Oda doesn't go home. Not that Dazai cares, but they'll whine and cry and slobber even more if they get upset. A mere 3 minutes into staring blankly up at the ceiling, the door creaks open. Expecting Mori, Dazai tenses up and mentally prepares himself as he twists his neck to face the door. "Chuuya?" He blinks, but his red-haired partner is still stomping towards him, a box in hand and a scowl on his lips. "Why are you here?" "It's still your birthday," Chuuya mutters, averting his eyes. "So shut up for a few minutes and eat this." Chuuya places a small red box on Dazai's lap and plops down in the visitor's chair, huffing and crossing his arms over his chest. It takes a moment, but Dazai manages to get the lid open with his left hand. Inside is a small, round chocolate cake. There is white icing on top of that spells Happy Birthday and some random decorative swirls. I bought it, Chuuya clarifies. Was gonna make it myself, but you weren't there, so it felt weird. We'll bake you a proper cake for your next birthday next year. Dazai doesn't say anything. Instead, he takes a bite of the cake. Crumbs get all over his shirt and cheeks, but he doesn't care that much. It's delicious. It's horrible. I hate it. Good. Chuuya's lips quirk up. I found a video about baby tigers while I was waiting for the baker lady to write the words on it. Wanna see? No. Dazai shuffles a bit closer as Chuuya navigates to the video and tips his phone screen so Dazai can see too. They watch videos well into the night. Dazai has to fight to keep from laughing on a number of occasions, but Chuuya has no such restrictions, so his gasping laughter rings out over the hours they watch YouTube, making the infirmary just cheery enough for Dazai not to mind staying the night. When he wakes up in the middle of the night, Chuuya is hunched over in the visitor's seat, cheek pressed against the sheet of Dazai's bed. His fingers are latched around Dazai's left wrist. Dazai shifts to free his hand, only for Chuuya's grasp to tighten and a small frown to pull at his lips, as if even in sleep he deems letting go unacceptable. Dazai decides to allow it just this once. The fact that his whole arm feels warm and fluffy has nothing to do with it. After one mildly awkward piggyback ride out of the Port Mafia HQ, Dazai finds himself back on Chuuya's couch. He is not quite sure how he's going to sleep on the couch with broken bones. He usually curls up to fit on the couch. It is not long enough for full-length Dazai. But that sounds like a problem that can't be dealt with tonight. First, Dazai has to deal with a pacing Chuuya who is skimming over the notes that Mori left regarding what Dazai is supposed to do to heal up as fast as possible. And you're actually going to follow these? Yes, Dazai says for the nth time. Though that one at the bottom is stupid, so maybe not that one. Chuuya lowers the notes and glares at him. Really, you aren't going to follow must not put full weight on injured limbs until cleared by doctor to do so? Yeah, sounds kinda lame. Dazai, if you try to walk around, I will literally duct tape you to the couch. Rude, Dazai mumbles. Is it too late to exchange roommates? I wanna go stay with Oda. Chuuya raises a brow. Fucking try it. His kids will all want to draw on your casts. You'll be back in 20 minutes. This is unfortunately accurate. One of them would probably sit on his broken leg, or kick it and think his cries of pains were funny. Fine, maybe not Oda. Dazai frowns. And Ango's place smells weird. Well darn, guess I'm stuck with Chuuya after all. Uh-huh. Chuuya tucks the notes away and heads for the kitchen. What do you want with your crab? We're eating that canned stuff I bought yesterday, though you better not expect canned crab often, got it? Dazai wrinkles his nose. Great, does that mean Chuuya is actually going to make him stick to the stupid diet plan Mori included in the Get Better notes? Yeah, nope. No way is Dazai giving up on his perfectly fine diet of canned crab, alcohol, the occasional fruit or vegetable, and chocolates pilfered from Chuuya's stash. His dietary needs are totally met as is. Silly chibi, you don't need to make anything with the crab. The crab is the whole meal. Yeah, sure. Stay there and watch TV for a bit. I'll think of something. The TV remote glows red and floats over until it is close enough for Dazai to grab from the air. He throws a pout his partner's way for good measure. He is not a child that can be distracted at the promise of television, and quickly navigates to one of those trivia games so he can mock all the idiots that guess the wrong answer. When night falls and Dazai starts to get sleepy, all he needs to do is give Chuuya a pointed look and his partner understands instantly. Huh, guess it's getting late. Chuuya rises from the couch where they had eaten supper since Dazai wanted to keep watching Jeopardy and scoops Dazai into his arms in one smooth motion. Unfortunately, it is a carry they are both used to at this point. For some odd reason, Dazai does have a tendency to get hurt on their more dangerous missions. The kidnappings he orchestrates to get info on the opponents are usually the worst. Dazai holds still and makes carrying him to the bathroom so he can clean up before bed easier for his partner. However, once he is ready for bed, Chuuya does not carry him back to the couch. Instead, Dazai gets gently set down on Chuuya's bed. He raises an eyebrow. Did Chibi's arms get tired? My couch is in the other room. Mackerel, you can't sleep on the couch right now. Yes, I can. You don't fit, dumbass. Chuuya rolls his eyes. Our vertical positions are slightly different. You can just say you're short. So I'll have an easier time on the couch. Besides, you have broken bones. My bed is comfy. Being comfy is good for recovery. Deal with it. Dazai is not quite sure how to respond. He lets Chuuya help him under the covers, and when Chuuya has turned off the overhead lights and is midway through shutting the door, Dazai quietly mumbles, "Thanks, Chuuya." The door pauses briefly on its path, indicating Chuuya did hear him, then it clicks shut. Dazai smacks his left palm over his face and groans. He actually said that out loud? How mortifying. Come morning, Dazai is already over this whole being injured thing. He woke up at 6, texted Chuuya to come help him out of bed, then remembered that since they don't have any planned missions today, Chuuya is going to sleep in. And by sleep in, he means he will be lucky if the chibi is awake by noon. Dazai makes the wise decision to invest in a jigsaw game on his phone. He does 3 puzzles in under an hour, gets bored, deletes the app, and goes back to spamming Chuuya's phone in hopes that the notifications will wake his partner. Then he remembers that his other redhead should be awake. Quickly navigating to his contacts, Dazai calls Oda. It rings twice, then Oda picks up midway through the 3rd ring. Hi Dazai, how are you?
It's Dazai? I thought he died! Wait, let me say hi. Do you think he can hear us if we talk loud? Hi Dazai, glad he didn't die!
Dazai pulls the phone away from his ear, grimacing. He may have forgotten about the gremlins. His phone buzzes, alerting him that Oda has requested to swap their call to a video chat. He sighs. Fine, but only because he is bored, not because he wants to see Oda's kids. That would be silly. Hitting accept, the screen flashes. Then 6 faces are squished into his phone. Oda is in the background, holding the phone out so his orphans can sit in his lap or nearby to see the screen. Hi, Dazai says. He risks a glance at the closed door of Chuuya's room. As much as he does want his partner awake, actually waking Chuuya when he is sleeping means he gets a grumpy partner all day, and that never goes over well. Chuuya is sleeping in the other room, so we have to be quiet, okay?
Okay. She said quiet, dummy. Hey, who you calling dummy, dummy?
Oda meets Dazai's gaze through the phone and offers a small smile. Kosuke, Katsumi, don't call each other dummy. That's not very nice. Save the insults for Chuuya. Dazai adds on. He regrets the words immediately. The kids perk up, eyes lighting up, and feathers fluffing like he just told him Christmas was coming early.
We get to meet Chuuya?
Shinji gasps. The little boy claps his hands together while his dapple gray wings give an excited twitch, smacking Oda in the face.
When? Can we come over now? Yeah.
Kosuke jumps in.
We can bring the get-well presents we made you, Dazai. Dazai!
Sakura cheers, the baby girl's fingers grabbing at the screen as if doing so will allow her to grab at his face. Why she likes doing that, Dazai has no idea. It's annoying and always messes up his bandages. Now. Oda murmurs in that soft voice he uses to get the kids to drop their own volume level down to match his. Dazai got a very big ouchie yesterday, so we need to give him a little time before we can visit. No visit is fine too. Dazai mumbles, softly enough that the phone has next to no chance of picking it up. We'll make plans to go see Dazai and his friend Chuuya sometime next week, okay? The words may be directed at the cheering, suddenly gleeful children, but Oda looks to Dazai for confirmation. Sighing, Dazai dips his head in a small bob. The chibi might be horrible with kids, and the little gremlins are practically the same size as Chuuya, so that might be quite funny to see. After the kids have sufficiently babbled about their recent adventures at daycare and Oda declares it lunchtime, Dazai lies flat on his back, staring up the roof. He can feel his lips tilting up at the corners. Then, hearing sluggish grunts from the outside, he forces the small smile aside to his usual monotone blank look just in time for Chuuya to shove the door open, blink drowsily at him, and shuffle through the room to the adjoining bathroom. Dazai pouts at his partner's back as the bathroom door is clicked shut between them. Not even a good morning. Ouch. Guess Chuuya must have had a bad sleep. 10 seconds later, Dazai hears a rather dangerous sounding crash. "Chuuya?" he calls out. "You alive?"
Yup,
Chuuya replies, his voice croaky with sleep.
just shattered the mirror again. Don't mind me.
There's another crash and Chuuya cusses loudly. With significant difficulty, Dazai maneuvers himself to sitting upright. "Chibi, do you need help?"
Nope, I'm totally fine. Just a bit stuck. Don't you dare get out of bed.
Dazai freezes, his uncasted foot centimeters away from the carpeted floor.
God damn it.
Another horribly loud crash. A pause. Chuuya cracks the door open and sticks his head out. His hair is ruffled. There are a couple red and black feathers stuck in the knotted ginger sections, and a small frown is pulling at his lips. "How important is the shower curtain?" Dazai raises an eyebrow. "You ripped the curtain?" "No." Chuuya averts his gaze. "I broke the railing bit that holds the curtain. And the mirror, and added a couple holes to the wall, but those can be covered with some framed art, so it's fine." Dazai raises his eyebrow higher. "Wait, are you saying that all the paintings you have in here are to cover holes in the wall?" Chuuya slams the bathroom door shut, but is not quite fast enough for Dazai to miss the way his partner's cheeks tint pink. He cackles. Ah, how delightful. If he was capable of standing on his own, Dazai would totally head over to the nearby black frame and push aside the pot of white roses contained within to see what sort of damage Chuuya has been dealing to his walls all these years. When Chuuya does come out, Dazai sends him a teasing grin. "Break anything else, Chibi?" Chuuya rolls his eyes. Yeah, laugh it up. Won't happen again. I was tired and a bit stupid and my back itched, okay?" Dazai pauses, then decides to ask anyway. If Chuuya gets mad at him, worst that can happen right now is the slug will refuse to carry Dazai to the TV. "You mean your wings smacked stuff?" His partner's cheeks darken again, but Chuuya doesn't look away this time. "Yeah, so what? In case you didn't notice, my room is significantly larger than the bathroom. I was not expecting such a small space and got a little startled." "Oh." Seeing the way Chuuya is fidgeting with the wrist of his gloves, Dazai lets it drop. "I was talking to Oda this morning. Apparently, he and the children want to come by sometime next week. They all want to meet you and mock me for being injured." "They won't mock you," Chuuya rebuts immediately. He steps closer and scoops Dazai up, starting for the bathroom and then reversing and bringing Dazai to the couch. "You can brush your teeth after I clean up all the broken bits in there. But yeah, sure, it would be fun to have your friends over." "They are not my friends," Dazai protests. "Oda's brats are annoyances at best." "Sure, Dazai. I record some kid-friendly shows in case they want to watch TV, and maybe you could pick up some of those dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets. I think kids like those. I'll text Oda and we'll make a plan." "Fine, like I care." Dazai sniffs. He'll have to text Oda later to make sure his friend doesn't let Chuuya plan anything too stupid. Once Chuuya sets him down on the couch, Dazai notes the abundance of red and black feathers littering the space near his feet. He opens his mouth to ask Chuuya if he really slept with his wings draping off the couch, which must have been incredibly uncomfortable, only to catch himself when he sees the way Chuuya tenses up at the sight of the feathers. "Sorry, let me get a broom." Dazai swallows the question. He stays silent as Chuuya sweeps away the feathers and glances at his partner's back as he shuffles off to dispose of them, wondering how on earth Chuuya slept the whole night with his wings being pulled by gravity like that and is still being able to move. From what he recalls, pulling a wing muscle felt positively awful, and the easiest way to go about pulling muscles in one's back is to sleep with unsupported wings. He'll figure out a way to trick Chuuya into letting him sleep on the couch tonight. Dazai might be a poor partner and a horrible roommate, but he is unwilling to let Chuuya hurt himself like that for him. Chuuya does not seem to agree. "Let go of the couch cushions, Dazai! You're pulling at my legs, stop it! I'm getting you to bed whether you want it or not!" Dazai screeches as Chuuya gives a particularly hard tug at his unbroken leg and he loses his grip to the couch, allowing Chuuya to pick him up. Now resting rather comfortably in Chuuya's arms, Dazai pouts and glares at his partner. "Stupid chibi, I want to sleep on the couch!" Chuuya rolls his eyes. "We discussed this yesterday, remember? You don't fit on the couch with broken limbs. You're sleeping in the bed and that's that." "But it's your bed," Dazai protests. "You should be the one sleeping in it. Me and the couch get along great. Leave us be." "Well, you should have thought of that before getting bazookaed off a building." "That's Mori's fault," Dazai grumbles. "Wouldn't it be the fault of the guy with the bazooka?" "No," Dazai shakes his head. "Bad things are always Mori's fault." Sure. Chuuya ignores the rest of Dazai's protests and gets him tucked into bed just as comfortably as the night before. "Night, Dazai. I'll get up earlier tomorrow and we'll play video games before lunch, okay?" "I suppose if I must, then it is acceptable." "Good night," Chuuya repeats. The door clicks shut. Dazai stares at the closed door for a solid 10 minutes before daring to whisper, "Good night, Chuuya." He will simply have to try harder to get back to sleeping on the couch tomorrow. Next time he breaks bones, Dazai is going to politely ask whoever is doing the breaking to not go for his legs. It is incredibly inconvenient to be stuck in one place and have to ask Chuuya to carry him around. Not that his partner seems to mind at all, but still. Dazai likes being able to wander around on his own whims. Technically, he could force Chuuya to get him a wheelchair of some kind, but that would hardly fit in Chuuya's apartment, and sounds like a hassle that Dazai does not want to bother with. He sighs loudly and tosses his phone aside. It hits the floor with a clunk, but doesn't sound like it landed hard enough to break. Too bad, really. He is very done reading over the Port Mafia paperwork. "Hopefully that noise was not you falling off the couch," Chuuya calls from the kitchen. The chibi has been cooking stuff all morning and refused to tell Dazai why. "No, just my phone, and coincidentally Mori's paperwork." "Good. You ready for this afternoon?" Dazai pauses. He can't remember anything they were supposed to do today. Plus, Dazai still has many weeks left until he is scheduled to meet with Mori and check to see how much longer he has to wait until being able to take on missions. "Seriously, Dazai?" Chuuya must have taken the silence as an answer. "Oda and his kids are coming over in, 20 minutes. Dazai blinks. "That's today? And you didn't warn me?" He hears a deep sigh from the kitchen before Chuuya marches over and scowls at him. 20 minutes, the redhead repeats. "What do you need to do to get ready?" Dazai, who hasn't bathed in the last 3 days and has been wearing the same clothes for about that long, shrugs. "Should probably brush my teeth?" I'm texting Oda to show up late." Chuuya, after sending the message against Dazai's protests, rudely tells Dazai that he reeks by forcing him into the bathtub. Bathing with casts is difficult, but not impossible, especially when one has an annoying gravity-manipulating partner nearby who prevents stray water droplets from hitting his not-allowed-to-get-wet casts. A solid 40 minutes later, Dazai is freshly washed and in new clothes, a small scowl on his face as he shifts around on the couch, trying to get comfortable. He knows that very soon he is going to be laden with 5 infants all trying to climb on his lap, but alas, his poor broken bones are just going to be further irritated. Nothing he can do about it. There is a knock on the door. Dazai sighs, slouching. "Relax," Chuuya mutters, gently mussing Dazai's hair as he passes the couch to reach the door. Dazai huffs and half-heartedly presses his hair back to something less messy. "Hey Oda, kids." Chuuya greets their guests warmly as he opens the door and steps aside so they can come in. Shoes go right by the door. Once Oda has wrangled each kid out of their shoes, the gremlins are loose. The four boys quickly set off, exploring the small apartment with vigor, while Oda carries Sakura in his arms and introduces her to Chuuya. Once the boys have sufficiently sprinted from the main area where Dazai's couch is, to the kitchen, to Chuuya's bedroom, to the bathroom, then back to the couch, they crowd Dazai and gape at him more than normal.
Whoa, Dazai, your leg looks all big and weird.
Kosuke, the oldest, exclaims, poking at his cast a little too roughly. It's a cast, Dazai explains. The bones in my leg broke, so the cast helps them stay in one place so they can heal correctly.
It still looks funny.
You, the middle child, points out. The other boys nod along. You know, Chuuya pipes in. Dazai shoots his partner a dark look, not liking the glee in his voice. When someone gets a cast, it's common to draw pictures on it to help them feel better.
Really? We gotta do that.
Katsumi, the second eldest, turns pleading eyes to Dazai. His wings, white with spots of dark blue, snap into existence and flutter excitedly.
Please, Dazai, I'll draw you the coolest picture ever, and you'll be all better in no time.
The other kids, upon realizing that Katsumi has his wings out, all decide that they want their wings visible too. Dazai grimaces. Chuuya will have to sweep thoroughly later. Oda chuckles. Don't forget your manners, everyone. Did you ask Chuuya if it was okay to have your wings out in the house? The kids turn to Chuuya, who immediately freezes up at the sudden apologies and multiple versions of, "Please, Mr. Chuuya, is it okay?" Yeah, you're good. No worries. Chuuya's smile looks a bit strained, but given their present company, Dazai does not point it out. Let me go get the markers so you guys can decorate Dazai's cast. Dazai sends a withering glare at his partner's retreating form, but is quickly sidetracked by Oda coming closer so Sakura, who has been wiggling in his grasp, can get transferred to Dazai's lap.
Dazai!
The 4-year-old girl cheers, her grubby hands grabbing hold of his cheeks and squishing them together. She giggles and lets go of his face, only to squish closer and smack a wet kiss to his unbandaged cheek. Dazai wrinkles his nose.
Dazai,
the girl repeats.
Fix my wings?
At the request, she flaps her tiny, light pink wings, drawing his attention to all the crooked feathers within. They do look messy, Dazai replies. She won't let me preen them this week, Oda says. Said she wanted you to do it. I am the best at it. Dazai manages to say around an odd lump in his throat. Sakura wiggles around until her back is facing him, her wings fluffy and waiting for him to get to work.
Me next!
Katsumi declares, which spouts a whole argument over what order the gremlins are going in, but means that he is undoubtedly going to have to preen all of the wings. Well, I suppose if I must. Just as he starts preening the girl's wings, Chuuya comes back with the markers he went looking for. Chuuya's footsteps startle a bit, but Dazai does not have time to comment before his partner is handing washable markers. They are on the couch. Chuuya would probably cry if his couch got permanently stained. Over to the eager and thoroughly distracted boys. Oda wanders off and returns a moment later with a chair from the kitchen, setting it near the end of the couch Dazai's head is occupying. How are you feeling, Dazai? Oda asks. Fine. Dazai replies automatically. He avoids Oda's gaze by focusing on the tiny feathers he is straightening out. A bit annoyed I can't do much right now, but that's it. I've been making him eat vegetables. Chuuya comments with a sly grin. He too has brought a chair over and is glancing at Dazai's slowly being decorated cast every so often. Oh, I am glad to hear that. Oda makes a small, pleased noise. I've been trying to get him to eat better for a long time. I eat fine, Dazai mutters. Considering both his red-headed friends glance at him with disbelief, Dazai ignores their purposeful looks. He is preening wings, very busy, so no time for disapproval of his dietary habits. A couple minutes pass during which Chuuya and Oda talk, complain about some of Dazai's other bad habits. He ignores them. So what if it's common knowledge that Dazai can't cook or clean or tie his own shoes that well? He does not sulk. Dazai! Yu tugs on Dazai's pant leg, demanding attention. Look, I drew you a super cool snake. The 7-year-old points to a weird orange and green blob shape. Hideous, Dazai remarks. Yu beams. Thanks, I was trying to make them extra spooky, 'cause you always try to look scary all the time. Check out mine. Katsumi grins toothily and points to the brown and white blob now on Dazai's shin. Can you tell what it is? No, not really. I was going to draw a dog, but you're scared of dogs. I'm not! Dazai hisses, glancing fearfully over his shoulder. Thankfully, it does not seem like Chuuya, who is currently talking to Oda about something culinary related, heard. So instead, I drew a cat. Well, Dazai mutters, cats are better than dogs, less likely to eat you. Katsumi giggles like Dazai made a joke. Dazai nudges Sakura's shoulder and tosses the handful of broken pink feathers he pulled from her wings onto the floor. You're done. Who's next? Me, Yu declares, stealing the spot on Dazai's lap before either Shinji or Katsumi can. Kosuke is still drawing, lips stuck out of the corner of his mouth as he concentrates on whatever it is. Yu smacks Dazai's injured shoulder with a stray wing, making him smother a wince. Regardless, he does his best to preen the boy's wings, albeit slower than usual given he is down a hand. By the time Oda and the kids leave, Dazai is exhausted, has a cast decorated in far too many colors. I drew you with Oda and Chuuya, Kosuke had declared proudly once completing the picture. Created a small mound of feathers on the floor, and has lost half his couch space, thanks to the invasion of Get Better Soon and Happy Birthday cards the kids made him over the last week-ish. He reads through each one when Chuuya is cooking dinner. Apparently, neither the mid-afternoon dino nuggets or the tasty snack-sized desserts they had count as an appropriate meal, and loudly tells the chibi to throw the cards out later. However, rather than some aggressive reply nagging at Dazai to appreciate the cards the kids made for him, there is no answer. Chibi, he calls a little louder. Did you fall in the dish with the other shrimp and cook yourself? Still no reply. Now slightly concerned, Dazai wiggles around until he is sitting properly upright and peers over to the kitchen. Chuuya is in sight, the chibi's shoulder tense as he aggressively stirs something in a pan. Odd. Dazai thought Chuuya had a good time this afternoon. He was smiling for the most part, indulged in the gremlin's questions about his ability, and talked lots with Oda. Heck, he even drew a small, shaky fish on Dazai's cast. So, why is he upset? Chuuya? Dazai tries again. This time, his partner startles, knocking the pan slightly, and turns to face him. Yeah, what's up? You're acting weird, Dazai points out. There is probably a nicer way to approach the topic, but he doesn't bother. Chuuya rarely appreciates his attempts to sugarcoat things anyway. Chuuya shrugs. Sorry, I guess. Food will be ready in 20. Considering Chuuya turns back to the stove, giving the pan sitting there his full attention, Dazai does not pry further. Either Chuuya will sleep off whatever is bothering him, or his partner will bring it up himself. Prying at this point will get him yelled at, so staying quiet and watching some Jeopardy is a much better plan. Just as Chuuya is helping Dazai into bed that night, he still hasn't managed to convince Chuuya to let him sleep on the couch. It comes up. His partner lingers after helping Dazai pull the covers up to his chin. Then Chuuya sits on the edge of the bed. Dazai frowns and wonders if he should sit up so they can have a proper conversation. But doing so would ruin all their work in getting him to bed, so he stays put. After an awkward 20 silent seconds, Chuuya suddenly blurts, "Can I ask you a question?" Dazai shrugs as best as he can while reclined. "You can always ask, doesn't mean I'll answer." Right. Chuuya shifts his gaze to his hands, playing with the edge of a glove. What were your wings shaped like when you had them? Dazai is momentarily taken aback. Considering it has been a while since Chuuya found out Dazai, unlike most of the population, does not have wings, it hasn't been brought up. Yet, how do you know I had wings and wasn't just born without them? Then it hits him and he realizes what a stupid question that was. Never mind, you've seen my back, you know the stuff. Chuuya mumbles. Dazai pauses. What? Chuuya gestures vaguely with a hand. The stuff, you know, with the feathers and the kids and whatever. Preening? Dazai's lips quirk up slightly. I mean, anyone with Google could figure that out. But you did it different. The kids. It didn't seem like it hurt them when you took the broken feathers away. The way Chuuya is awkwardly hunched and avoiding his gaze makes Dazai's small smile drop away instantly. Chuuya, never mind, forget it. Chuuya stands abruptly. Just forget I said anything. Dazai rolls his eyes. Sit down, slug. You're shaking and fidgety. Just keep talking. You don't have to run, not from me, goes unsaid. But considering Chuuya does sit down after a second's hesitation, perhaps that sentiment got across well enough. Chuuya glances his way, then goes back to staring down at his hands. You didn't answer my question from before. Huh? Your wings, when you, had them, what did they look like? Dazai is not really sure how telling Chuuya will help his partner with whatever is bothering him, but it can't hurt to go along with. He knows Chuuya is not trying to manipulate Dazai into sharing personal information like some sleazy doctor would, so he doesn't mind. He closes his eyes and tries to picture his wings. It was a while ago, so he doesn't have a great image, but... They were soft, he murmurs. A wistful note slips into his words. Chuuya is kind enough not to point it out. I had big, white feathers, made it easy to preen since they were so large. I have no idea what bird they were based off, but my feathers were soft. I preferred them over my actual blanket. Dazai pauses. His back twinges with phantom pain. His voice goes carefully flat. My father did not appreciate the color of my wings, said a child like me shouldn't have angelic wings, that they were too pure for me. He had them removed when I was 9. Chuuya shudders, his shoulders rounding over, but doesn't offer Dazai any dull words of comfort. Good. Dazai does not want them. Instead, Chuuya moves the conversation along. And the feathers sting, preening. It didn't hurt? You never pulled at feathers and had to stop because your fingers were too wet with blood to continue? No, Dazai frowns. Chuuya, can I? He cuts himself off. It is generally a little rude to ask to see someone's wings. However, if Chuuya has been pulling healthy feathers and ripping up the delicate skin of his wings until they bleed profusely, then someone should check to make sure everything looks okay. Considering their medical assistance is Mori, Dazai would like to think that he would be the preferred choice if Chuuya is going to trust someone to look at his wings. However, when he started asking, Chuuya had perked up ever so slightly. Dazai swallows and changes his question. Can I try preening your wings sometime? Sometimes it's easier to have someone help. Chuuya finally looks up to meet his eyes. There is something there, something a little scared and vulnerable. Dazai thinks he understands why Chuuya asked about his wings. Now it's an exchange, not a potential way for Dazai to gain power over his partner by Chuuya deciding to trust him. Now? Chuuya offers. Sure, help me sit up first, Dazai says. Once Dazai's back is resting comfortably against Chuuya's headboard, Chuuya climbs into the bed with him. His partner strips his shirt off, tossing it aside, and sits with his back towards Dazai, careful not to touch Dazai's broken leg. There is a moment where Chuuya tenses up and Dazai thinks his partner is going to bail. Then Chuuya unfurls his wings. The first thing Dazai notices is the absolutely horrendous state they are in. Feathers, fading from black at the base to red at the tips, are nearly all crumpled and twisted in odd ways. It's no wonder Chuuya often mutters complaints about his back being itchy. The second thing Dazai notices, which really should have been the first, is the sheer abundance of feathers Chuuya has. For one, his feathers are relatively slim. However, the volume is mainly since, rather than the regular two, Chuuya has 4 wings, one upper set over a lower set, and they are very large. With them curled up as they are, Dazai cannot give an accurate measurement, but he has no doubt Chuuya's wingspan is at least an impressive 15 feet. Chuuya shuffles uncomfortably, seeming to take Dazai's stunned silence as a bad thing. Realized pretty quickly mine aren't normal, so I never asked about wing stuff with the sheep. They would have wanted to help in a more hands-on way. And yeah, Chuuya ruffles all 4 of his wings, knocking loose broken feathers. Realizing Chuuya is waiting for him to say something, Dazai clears his throat. No wonder they itch. Chibi, your wings are a mess. Chuuya snorts. It sounds relieved. Yeah, I know. I can't really reach them that well. This might take a while. Dazai warns his partner. If you fall asleep on me and crush me to death, I'll be mildly annoyed. Getting crushed sounds like a horrible way to die. I'm not just gonna fall asleep. Oh! Chuuya sucks in a sharp breath and goes rigid as Dazai lightly drags his fingers over Chuuya's upper left wing. It's the easiest to reach given his left hand is the one not stuck in a stupid sling. Dazai repeats the action, digging his fingers in just enough to make the feathers glide around his digits. Chuuya makes a strangled sound and slumps back, practically melting into Dazai's chest. Hey! Dazai complains as Chuuya's weight flops onto him. Sit up! You promised not to crush me. I'm sitting up, Chuuya slurs. Dazai rolls his eyes. He should have known. From the sounds of it, no one, not even Chuuya himself, has touched his wings in any kind of nice way. Of course the chibi is going to react more than expected to what is essentially a very nice head scratch on steroids. I can't reach your wings like this. Dazai pokes at Chuuya's bare spine, trying to keep his partner from falling asleep already. He hasn't even started preening and, considering the volume he is working with here, there is a lot of work to be done. Shh, Chuuya mumbles sleepily. I'm awake. Right, at least turn over. I should be able to reach something that way. Okay. While Chuuya does pull his wings tight to his back and flip onto his stomach, now Dazai simply has his partner sprawled out on him. Not exactly the best position for fixing wings, but it's better than having Chuuya's feathers trapped between his back and Dazai's chest. It only takes 5 minutes of careful preening, of slowly guiding the slim feathers into the correct position and gently removing the broken ones, for Chuuya to start to snore. Given he is expecting it, Dazai isn't shocked. He keeps going until he cannot reach any new wing space from his position, then keeps running his fingers over Chuuya's wings until he too falls asleep. Come morning, Dazai's back hurts. Understandable given that he slept sitting up with an entire chibi squishing him, but still, rude. He is sore elsewhere. Why must his back betray him too? Unsurprisingly, given Chuuya is sleeping deeply enough that he is drooling on Dazai's lap, Chuuya is still asleep and no amount of poking or shoving is going to wake him. Dazai even tries lightly pulling at a feather, but that doesn't work either. He can't grab his phone from here, so Dazai huffs and settles in for a boring morning. About 15 seconds later, he gets bored. Eyeing Chuuya to ensure his partner is truly unconscious, Dazai reaches out and lets his fingertips drag over Chuuya's soft wings. He can't stop himself from allowing the tiniest smile to twist his lips up. He'd never admit it out loud, not even with a gun to his head, but preening was one of his favorite things about his own wings when he was little. One of his earliest memories is of his mother showing Dazai how to preen his wings, her manicured nails scraping gently through the feathers. She was gone 2 weeks later, but that small moment of care, of love, was enough. Preening his wings, making them look perfect and pretty, quickly became habit. Hence why he does not complain nearly as much as he should when Oda's gremlins want him to fix their wings. It's nice to spend a few minutes straightening feathers and receiving a smile and a pleased thank you in return. Dazai is pretty sure he read somewhere that preening is supposed to be a social activity for birds, a way of bonding. But they're humans, not birds, so clearly that is totally ridiculous. Chuuya shifts and mumbles in his sleep. The wing Dazai is petting fluffs up, welcoming his fingers. He freezes, hands stilling. A long minute passes, but Chuuya keeps snoring. Relaxing, Dazai returns to dragging his fingers through Chuuya's wing and lets his mind wander. He is sure they'll have to talk once his partner wakes up, but for now, basking in the morning hours and not being alone is nice. 8 minutes after noon, Chuuya starts to stir. Dazai quickly snatches his hand back, tucking it under his thigh as if it had been trapped there all along. A few sleepy grumbles later, Chuuya peeks up at him. His hair is a mess, the ginger strands matted and clumped together. His cheek holds creases from resting on Dazai's lap all night, and his eyes are a murky, sleepy blue. A small flush tints Chuuya's cheeks as he squints up at Dazai. "Samu?" he mumbles, effectively forcing a bit of color onto Dazai's cheeks as well. "Why are you in my bed?" Then he blinks, a bit of clarity returns to his eyes, and Chuuya's blush shifts from pink to a deep, flustered red. He leaps out of bed, landing awkwardly on the floor, and scrambles to his feet. Dazai blinks. The bathroom door slams shut but does not prevent him from hearing Chuuya starts cussing in French. Not that he knows what his partner is saying. Chuuya said it wouldn't be fair if Dazai learned the one bonus language he knows, so Dazai restrained himself from learning French and focused on other languages instead. But it is still amusing. In any case, with Chuuya's weight no longer squishing him, Dazai is able to reach his phone and answer a few texts from Oda and Ango. He is a little surprised Ango texted, and even more surprised to find, "Heard it was your birthday. Sorry we missed it. Drinks on me next time." A sentiment Dazai is happy to agree to. Once he is done replying to all of Oda's messages, most of them jumbled ones with bad spelling that are clearly from one child or another, asking if he liked the cards they made, Chuuya returns. The chibi looks much more awake and normal now, his hair brushed and his face scrubbed clean. However, his wings are still out. Chuuya shuffles in place, fidgeting. The spot on his upper wings that Dazai was able to reach and straighten out look much glossier and healthier than the other sections. Dazai sighs. He sets his phone aside and pats the bed in front of him. "You'd better not fall asleep again, Slug. You drooled on me." "Fuck off!" Chuuya scowls, stomping over and sitting on the bed, his back to Dazai. "I did not." Deciding not to start what will surely twist into an argument, Dazai bites his tongue. He does not point out the proof that made a dark spot on his thigh overnight. Just like last time, the first stroke of Dazai's finger pads against Chuuya's feathers has his partners shuddering. Dazai pauses when Chuuya sways lightly, but the chibi remains upright. "I'm awake," Chuuya mutters once he realizes that Dazai had stopped. "Good," Dazai replies. "Stay that way, please. You got grumpy when you missed lunch." "I do not!" Chuuya flexes one of his wings, sending a few feathers to flick Dazai's cheek. He sputters, knocking the feathers aside, and then complains he was going to choke on them when he hears Chuuya's small, amused huff. "You aren't very good at debates," Dazai says instead. "You can't just say I'm right in various ways and win. That's not how it works." "Works just fine for me. Besides, words are your job, remember? You do all that stuff and I hit things." True. Dazai sighs loudly, just to be dramatic. How easy it must be to act as the mindless brawn. Means enemies don't think I can do much beyond punch things, so it works in my favor. Ow! Chuuya flinches, his wing twitching as Dazai graces over a particularly nasty clump of matted feathers. "Why'd that hurt? The rest..." Chuuya waves toward the slowly growing pile of broken black and red feathers on the ground. "Didn't hurt." "Give me a moment and I'll find out." Dazai picks up his phone and turns the flashlight on, giving his eye some extra light to work with. The problem becomes immediately obvious. Chuuya, didn't you break the mirror like a week ago? Yeah, why? Dazai levels the back of his partner's head with a glare. And you didn't think to check whether you got any glass in your wings? I mean, in my defense, they are usually sore all the time, so I did not notice anything different. This is why I have the brain in our relationship. He removes his hand, breaking their contact and thus giving Chuuya his ability back. Tweezers, please. Tweezers wrapped in glowing red float from the bathroom in seconds, hovering in the air for Dazai to grab. Humming contently, Dazai plucks them from the air and gets to work. Considering the glass shard had been embedded in the delicate skin of Chuuya's wing for the last week or so, it is infected. The feathers near the wound have tried to grow over it, hence why removing the broken ones and thus irritating the skin below is causing Chuuya pain. Well, Dazai has dealt with injuries far worse than this. With only a little fingering, he encourages the glass shard free and sets it aside on the bedside table to discard later. From there, coaxing the irritated feathers loose is easy. Chuuya's shoulders relax as Dazai sets the tweezers aside for now, the problem area having been dealt with. Then Dazai pauses. Chuuya, how likely is it that there is more glass stuck in here? Dazai is, after all, only on the first wing. There are 3 more to go and he does not fancy having to pluck glass from all of them. Guess we'll find out? Chuuya offers a weak chuckle. Dazai groans. This is going to take forever. Good thing they don't have any missions lined up, since Dazai is still supposed to be on bed rest, and that he does not care about getting Mori's paperwork back on time. By the time Dazai has finished with the last wing and is now just letting his fingers run through Chuuya's feathers, all straightened and gleaming, looking much healthier and stronger than before, his left hand has cramped and is aching. Chuuya hums contentedly and gives his wings a shake. No loose feathers tumble free, though the breeze does ruffle the broken feathers sitting on the floor and bed around them. Thanks, Dazai. I didn't think they could feel this good. Well, Dazai sniffs. Guess you shouldn't let your wings get into such horrible state again. Yeah, you're probably right. Dazai nods. He is often right. Might help if someone gave me a hand, though. Dazai feels Chuuya's gaze on him and quickly looks up from the feather he was tracing. His partner's eyes are hopeful, bright. It is quite obvious what reply Chuuya wants to hear. Dazai swallows and averts his gaze. I suppose I am the best at preening wings, and if Chibi is truly terrible at it, it only makes sense for me to take over such a task. Thanks, Dazai. Chuuya smiles at him. It's such an odd expression. Dazai is far more used to Chuuya's glares and scowls, that Dazai quickly grabs his phone as an excuse to look at something that is not his partner. Whatever, it's afternoon, so what's for supper? Supper? Chuuya scoffs. We aren't skipping lunch. But it's almost 3. We can't have lunch now and still be hungry for canned crab later. Watch and learn, Dazai. Chuuya smirks. I guarantee it is possible. Considering Chuuya makes some relatively tasty salad thing for lunch, then provides Dazai with his delightful and nutritious canned crab later, Dazai does fall prey to eating 2 meals that day. They quickly fall into a routine that, shockingly enough, doesn't suck as much as it could have. Dazai mostly spends his days on the couch, staying off his broken leg and allowing it to heal properly or whatever. He watches TV and does paperwork, and that's about it. Chuuya pops in and out, helping out with smaller missions and tasks when Koyu requests his assistance in something. Dazai is pretty sure half of those so-called missions are excuses for the 2 of them to have tea together, but he hasn't called his partner out on it yet, and never will. Then, every Friday night, Chuuya will put something dumb on the TV, sit on the floor, and unfurl his wings. It takes less time now that they aren't a complete mess, and even less time once Dazai's shoulder is sufficiently healed and he can take off the sling. Having both hands back speeds up the preening process by double. They don't exactly talk about it, and maybe they should, but too bad. Dazai is perfectly content as is, and considering Chuuya doesn't bring it up either, then presumably his partner is content too. Besides, he does not have the words to express how nice it is to have Chuuya trust him so unquestioningly every week. How much he looks forward to Fridays, if only to see how much shinier Chuuya's feathers have gotten over the week. Before he realizes it, weeks have flown by, and Mori is taking his cast off. Dazai gets a pointed look when the doctor sees the marker drawings scribbled on the previously pristine white cast, but Dazai pretends to be reading the post-cast healthcare notes and ignores the look. Oda and the kids came over a few more times and somehow more drawings found their way onto Dazai's cast. Not his fault whatsoever. That week, he and Chuuya are assigned on their next mission. If possible, they manage to work together even more flawlessly than before. However, on the way back to Chuuya's apartment, Dazai gets a call. He frowns. He was not expecting any calls today. He checks the caller ID and answers anyway. Oda? There is heavy breathing on the other end. For a single, terrifying moment, Dazai stops in the middle of the sidewalk, certain his friend is dying. Dazai? Chuuya's hand carefully lands on his shoulder, jolting him out of panicked thoughts of Oda bleeding out in a ditch somewhere. No, Oda is fine. He can see the future. Someone who can see the future can't die. I'm fine, Dazai says to reassure his partner, then turns his attention back to the call. Oda, where are you? What happened? Oda cuts off, coughing. It's a wet, painful noise that Dazai recognizes immediately. Oda might not be dead now, but he could be very soon.
Your apartment.
Oda manages.
Kids too. Someone attacked.
Dazai sucks in a sharp breath.
Kids are fine. I got hit.
Our apartment. Okay, don't hang up, Dazai orders, breaking out into a sprint. Don't you dare hang up, Oda. Stay on the line. You're putting pressure on the wound, yeah? He can hear Chuuya follow him, so at least if there are armed assailants waiting for them at home, he won't be alone in taking care of things. On the other end of the call, Oda grunts.
Yeah, one of your shirts, I think.
Good idea. Dazai tries to force a laugh. Chibi would be upset if you ruined his clothes with blood. At his side, Chuuya sucks in a sharp breath and taps Dazai's shoulder, his eyes asking a silent question. Dazai nods. Chuuya glows red and kicks off the ground, moving faster than Dazai could dream of and quickly disappearing from sight. Hang on, Oda. Dazai sucks in a sharp breath as his recently healed leg reminds him that sprinting hurts. Chuuya's on his way, okay? I'll be there soon too. Just... Dazai's voice breaks. He doesn't know what to say other than don't die. But voicing that thought aloud only gives Karma the opportunity to screw him over. Dazai runs through the streets, catching his phone like a lifeline, straining his ear to catch Oda's wheezing breaths. After what feels like far too long, there is a loud bang on the other end. Dazai flinches, preparing for the worst.
Oi, Oda! Stay awake, man!
The words are slightly muffled, but clear enough. Dazai relaxes. Subconsciously, his pace slows just a bit. Chuuya is there. He'll keep Oda alive. Everything is going to be fine. When he gets there, things do not look fine. The bloody handprint on the doorknob has Dazai's breath catching in his throat. He can't lose Oda. It's just not allowed. It's not fair. Dazai shoves the door, only to have to catch it from falling, since someone, Chuuya probably, already ripped the hinges clean off the wall. Once the door is angled so it will not fall on anyone, Dazai slips inside. Spotting Oda's form collapsed on the ground, Chuuya kneeled next to him and cursing at him in increasingly foul language. Dazai nearly forgets to breathe. His gaze flicks around the room until it lands on the kids. All 5 are fine, their heads poking through the door to the bedroom, though Sakura is crying while Kosuke, who is holding her, is doing his best to quiet her. Seeing the kids alive and fine is enough for Dazai to jolt into work mode. There is no time to panic. He can panic after Oda is fine and comforting his scared gremlins. Dazai drops to his knees at Chuuya's side. He doesn't need to say anything for Chuuya to start rattling off details. Gunshot injury to the lower abdomen, exit wound visible, severe blood loss, 4 assailants that have been taken care of. Nudging Chuuya's hand, his partner slides aside, letting Dazai, the one between them with the more medical training, take over putting pressure on the wound. The cloth, what Oda said was a shirt, is slippery with blood, useless for stanching anymore. "New cloth," Dazai rasps. Chuuya immediately shrugs his jacket off and wrenches his own shirt over his head, handing it over. Dazai quickly swaps the shirts, then leans onto the injury, leveraging his weight to add more pressure. Oda's eyes snap open and the man's teeth grit, dealing with the pain quietly as to not startle the nearby kids. Good. That means Oda is coherent enough to feel the pain and be aware that his orphans are watching. "First aid kit," Dazai orders, his voice steadier this time. "Under the bathroom sink." Once more responding without question, Chuuya dashes off. He returns moments later with the fully stocked kit, unzipping the pouch and spreading out the contents to make finding things easier. "What's the plan?" Chuuya asks as Dazai reaches for a pair of gloves. "Stitch, glue, wrap." "Not cauterize? He's lost a lot of blood." Dazai gives a small shake of his head. "Don't want to risk making things worse. We will patch him here and get to HQ. If he needs it cauterized, they can do it in the infirmary." "Yeah, okay." Chuuya hovers for a moment, then, seeing Dazai head into tunnel-focused work mode, heads over to the kids. His voice is quiet, offering gentle reassurances to the worried, scared children. Dazai tunes the words out in favor of focusing on the task at hand. Given his years of practice of stitching skin shut, he is able to get a neat row of stitches on either end of Oda's wound. From there, he disinfects the injury and adds a line of medical glue to seal it shut and hopefully prevent infection. Just in case, he also uses a set of his own bandages, the best brand available at hand, and wraps Oda's abdomen, further blocking the wound from the outside world and all its possible contaminants. Once it's over, Dazai strips his gloves off and sighs. Oda, while he did pass out midway through the stitches, is still breathing. His chest is rising and falling, albeit a little shallowly. He is going to live. Something wet touches his cheek and he flinches. It's cold and weird. Dazai does not like it. He reaches up to wipe it away, only to freeze as he notes Oda's blood on his hands. He gasps a strangled noise, and then a hand is gently closing around his wrist and forcing it down, out of his line of sight. "Hey, you're okay." Chuuya's hand cups Dazai's cheek. A thumb passes under his visible eye, wiping the wetness gathering there away. "You did great, Osamu. Oda is going to be just fine." Dazai nods, clinging to Chuuya's words. His partner wouldn't lie. Not about this, so it must be true. Oda is going to be okay. Dazai tries to get his breathing under control, only for it to catch in his throat and turn into an embarrassing sob. Strong arms wrap around him, tugging him into a warm embrace. A hand presses against the back of his head, directing it to rest on Chuuya's shoulder. A gentle ruffle sounds, with extra warmth soon following. Dazai peeks up to see what the noise was, recognizes the black and red feathers caging him in through a watery eye, and goes back to clinging to Chuuya. His partner's lips are pressed against his hair, whispering reassurances that Dazai desperately needs to be proven right. A groan draws him out of Chuuya's arms. The moment Dazai lets go, Chuuya does too, his wings pulling tight to his back to make it easier for Dazai to rush to Oda's side. "Oda, are you awake?" The man's eyes crack open just a sliver, but that is enough. Dazai finds a new tear trying to roll down his face, so he sniffs and wipes it away. No tears allowed, not for the demon prodigy of the mafia. "Are the kids okay?" Oda croaks. He tries to move and gets a whole elbow under him before Dazai realizes that moving is a bad plan. "They're fine," Dazai says, catching Oda's shoulders and guiding him back to the floor. "No one else is hurt, and you will be all better in no time. I'll call Mori and..." Oda's hand grabs Dazai's arm, preventing him from finding his phone and dialing for further medical assistance. "Not Mori," Oda rasps. "Not the mafia." "What? Why not?" Dazai frowns, thoroughly puzzled. "They shot me." Dazai blinks. No, that's not right. Mori wouldn't have you shot. He might be a sleazy creep of a doctor, but he doesn't shoot people. Oda glances Chuuya's way. Dazai follows his gaze and finds his partner averting his eyes. "Chuuya? Well, see, the assailants I found lurking around may have possibly been Port Mafia. It didn't feel like you needed to know that right away, given the circumstances." "Oh." Dazai feels his knees go jelly-like and sits down before he can collapse and further embarrass himself. Crying and allowing Chuuya to hug him is more than enough for the rest of the century. "We'll figure it out," Chuuya continues. "It'll be fine, you'll see. Mori isn't stupid enough to go after all three of us together. We'll figure something out." Dazai nods, still a little dazed and not entirely processing Chuuya's words. All his mind can focus on is the fact that Mori tried to have one of his best friends killed. After a whole night of not sleeping, things are, shockingly, not getting any clearer. Dazai still cannot fathom why on earth Mori would try to have Oda assassinated. No matter which way he looks at it, it just doesn't make sense. If Mori were to succeed, Dazai would eventually figure out who was behind Oda's death and would do everything in his power to ruin Mori. It doesn't make sense. If Mori is starting to make rash, irrational decisions, then who knows what comes next? Maybe Mori will send people after Chuuya. It would be stupid to do so. Chuuya would just win the fight. But still, what if that happened? Dazai bites the inside of his cheek, the slight flash of pain grounding him. He doesn't like dealing with people who have gone off the rails and can no longer be reasoned with. His father is a prime example of just how easy it is to go insane and have someone, even a lowly doctor, slit your throat. Maybe it would be best to lay low for a while. Stay off the Port Mafia's radar, just until they can be certain whether Mori has lost his mind or not. Surprisingly, Oda is of similar opinion. He even brings it up before Dazai says anything. Boss must have heard that I was planning to leave. Oda admits that morning when Dazai brings him coffee. As the current injured person, Oda has been given the bed. The kids stay in there too, careful not to take up too much space and aggravate Oda's injury. Dazai didn't think sharing the couch with Chuuya would be comfortable, but it is. Somehow, their limbs ended up tangled together in a way that works overnight, and he woke up warm and cozy. Huh? Dazai blinks rather intelligently. People don't just leave the port mafia. Well, I was going to. Ango said he'd lend a hand. I found a detective agency that is willing to hire ex-mafioso and made contact. Boss must have caught on. Oh, I see. It kind of makes sense. Oda doesn't kill, so he doesn't really fit in with the mafia anyway. I was planning to tell you later this week. Oda continued after taking a sip of coffee. I wanted to make sure it was a for sure thing before I brought it up. Oh, Dazai repeats. Oda's eyes twinkle, amused. No need to look so down, Dazai. You're coming with me. He blinks. Huh? I never agreed to that. Too bad. Oda shrugs, then winces as doing so tugs at his injury. I already bartered for 3 spots at the agency, and the kids want you to come too, so it's already set up. I can't just leave, Dazai protests. It's not that easy. People don't just leave the mafia, Oda. Why not? Because, Dazai sputters. It's obvious, isn't it? People in the mafia stay there until they die. That's how the system works. Besides, Dazai has never not been mafia. He can't just decide to have another lifestyle one day. It doesn't work like that. Give me one valid reason why you shouldn't come with us and I'll accept it. Dazai thinks for a moment, then he nods to himself. I can't leave Chuuya. He'd be grumpy without me. Oda smiles in return. Why do you think I got us 3 spots at the detective agency? The moment it clicks, Dazai gapes. Chuuya takes that moment to poke his head into the room. Hey, what do kids normally eat for breakfast? Chuuya, did Oda tell you he is making us quit the mafia? Dazai demands. Huh? His partner shrugs. Nope, first time I'm hearing it. But seriously, man, he could have warned me in advance so I could say bye to Koyo. What? Dazai sputters. You're just okay with this? Chuuya shrugs again. Sure, why not? The mafia isn't good for either of you, nor the kids. And, well, honestly, it's not great for me either. Kind of annoying to have a god screaming in my head that I should murder people all the time. Maybe a vacation from the mafia life will get Arahabaki to shut up. Dazai gapes. They can't just leave. Can they? Logically, if anyone was going to get away from the port mafia alive, it would be Sokuku and the guy that can see the future. Still, just deciding to leave the mafia? That's insane. Doesn't make the single lick of sense. Oda and Chuuya have both gone crazy. However, if they both leave, then there isn't anything left here for Dazai. And they'll need someone like him with a bit of intelligence to stop them from doing dumb things. Plus, who would preen Chuuya's wings? He doubts that Chibi would trust anyone else to do it, and 17 years have proven that Chuuya won't do it himself. Fine. Dazai throws his hands up and stomps out of the room. Fine, I'll help. But only because you two are sometimes rather foolish and need my genius to survive. Cool, thanks. So, what are we having for breakfast? Cereal is always an option, Oda replies. Dazai throws his hands up into the air and stomps off to start packing and planning a way to cover their tracks while the redheads talk about food. See, this is exactly why they need him and his foolproof plans. So, apparently, not all Dazai's plans are 100% foolproof. Who'd have thought? Biting his tongue to not start swearing in front of the children, Dazai quickly ushers the kids behind an overturned car. A stray bullet tears a line through his coat, scraping skin, but that is hardly a worrisome injury given the circumstances. Turns out Mori is not as crazy as Dazai thought he may have gone, meaning that the doctor had contingencies in plan to counter Dazai's genius escape the mafia unscathed plan. Considering the gunfire that Chuuya and Oda are dealing with, he may need to alter his plan to escape the mafia slightly scathed. A particularly close gunshot has the kids shrieking. Dazai sighs and pulls out his handgun, checking the magazine to see how many bullets are left and finds 7. Not bad, could be worse. A shadow moves in the corner of his eye. Dazai fires. The shadow drops. 6 bullets left then. The ground creaks around them, and the squadron Mori sent after them shrieks as Chuuya throws a couple cars their way. Using that distraction, his partner sprints over and slides between the same vehicle Dazai and the kids are crouched behind. "I have a plan," Chuuya announces. "But that's my job," Dazai whines. "Just keep punching them till I think of something." "Too bad." Chuuya takes his stupid hat off and plunks it on Dazai's head. He gapes. Chuuya never voluntarily gives up his hat. "Chuuya, I'm not using corruption," Chuuya says, standing up. "Just, don't want my head caught in the crossfire. Hold on to it for me till I get back, yeah?" "Chuuya," Dazai repeats, louder and more insistent this time. "We're all getting out of here together." "Course." Chuuya offers him a small smile. "You guys just get a head start. I'm right behind you." His partner dashes back to the fight, and the ground trembles in response. Seconds pass, then Oda is with them. He pauses, his eyes on the hat perched on Dazai's head. "Come on," Dazai snaps before his friend can say anything. "We go now." He sets off, leading the way along the planned route, a hand placed to hold Chuuya's head steadily. The kids follow him while Oda takes up the rear. Dazai refuses to look over his shoulder, trusting that Chuuya won't lie to him. They agreed. They're all leaving the mafia together. Chuuya will catch up to them in just a moment, once the swarm of goons he is dealing with are dead. There are only a few assailants that get around Chuuya and need to be dispatched. Dazai is down to 2 bullets by the time they reach their destination, an underground bunker supplied to them by the armed detective agency. He glances at Oda and, upon receiving a knock confirming that opening the door won't make it blow up, wrenches the metal door open. Oda enters first, gun raised and shoulders tense. A long minute passes where Dazai keeps glancing around, checking the shadows for any trails, then Oda calls out that it's clear. They usher the kids in first and get them settled on the mats one of the agency members must have prepared. Dazai lingers by the door, his good eye scanning the evening around them in hopes of catching a flash of ginger hair. He stands there for 5 minutes before Oda places a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Come sit down, Dazai." "Not yet," he protests, though his traitor's feet let him be led away from the door so Oda can tug it shut. "Chuuya is on his way." "All right," Oda says. He leaves Dazai to pace as best as he can in the small space and sits with the kids. One mentions being cold, so Oda unfurls his wings and spreads them wide, tucking each kid into his hold. Dazai keeps pacing, his shoes clacking softly on the recently dusted concrete floor. His leg starts to ache, reminding him that running and not resting afterwards hurts. He ignores it. When his feet get sore and he can't keep pacing, Dazai sits by the door, staring at it stubbornly. Chuuya is going to show up soon. He'll knock on the door or just tug it open and accidentally break the lock, and everything will be fine. Dazai. Oda's soft voice comes later. The kids are sleeping, squished as close to their guardian as they can get. There is only a dim light bulb in the corner to supply them with light, but it works well enough for Dazai to see the look in Oda's eyes. Dazai shakes his head. Chuuya promised, he whispers. Dazai plucks the hat from his head and waves it Oda's way as proof. He's coming back for his hat. Oda doesn't say anything. Dazai returns to staring at the door. Morning arrives. A peppy agency member with a weird hat, who Dazai immediately hates, comes to get them, and Chuuya has not shown up. Over the last 3 weeks, Dazai has decided that he is angry. For the most part, Dazai has decided to be angry at Mori. As always, all bad things tend to be the doctor's fault, so it is reasonable that Dazai blames it on Mori. However, there is also a tiny bit of anger at Chuuya, who still hasn't shown up. Over the last days, Oda has tried multiple times to talk to Dazai, to softly broach the idea that Chuuya might not be coming, that he may have been executed as a traitor to the mafia. So, Dazai also has a teeny tiny bit of anger aimed at Oda because this is just a stupid idea. Chuuya isn't dead. He's coming to get his hat back. He promised he would be right behind them. Needless to say, Dazai has not officially joined the armed detective agency like Oda has. In fact, Dazai has decided not to leave their new apartment, a large room in the agency dorms, until Chuuya arrives. What if his chibi shows up and Dazai isn't there? He'll get confused. Clearly, the best plan is just to wait. Plus, if Dazai weren't there, then the gremlins might get lonely. They're all small and need someone of responsibility around to make sure they don't set fire to things. Granted, between the 6 of them, Dazai is the most likely to set fire to the apartment if he tried to cook. But still. All that said, it is entirely unfair that Oda kicked him outside to hang out with an ADA member that joined a month ago. So what if they were the same age? Dazai wants nothing to do with this blonde loser and is going to do his best to make sure the feeling is mutual. Point in case, since Oda kicked him out into the wilderness, Dazai has not said a single word to his forced companion for the day. Yet, somehow, that has not served to deter the other 17-year-old, who has been rambling on for the last 20 minutes, enough for the both of them. So, minding his own business and ignoring Kuni whatever, Dazai is rightfully shocked when gunfire starts and a hand latches on his wrist, yanking him into an alleyway. Instinctively, he lifts a hand to ensure Chuuya's hat does not fly off his head. He gets shoved against the fire escape and climbs it up before realizing that while being perched on a rooftop is good for having high ground, it is also rather good for trapping oneself. He'd rather not get bazookaed off another building. That hurt the last time. "You're one of the ex-mafia guys, right?" Kuni something asks. "Can we assume they are after you?" "Probably." Dazai breaks his vigil of not speaking and shrugs. "Haven't seen who it is yet, but odds are yes. They are shooting at me. Tends to happen a lot." "I wonder why." Kuni blah blah mutters. Dazai decides to take that as a compliment. Instead, he takes out the pistol he legally isn't supposed to have, ignores Kanikida's noise of protest, and prepares to start firing back at their assailants. No way is he going down without at least trying to kill his attackers back. "We are not to engage in mafia affairs," Kanikida hisses. "We're supposed to run if you come across them." "Well, if you want me to ask nicely of them to stop shooting at us so we can go get the groceries your boss asked for, then I can try that." Dazai pauses. "Though I will say doing so usually does not work as I intended to." However, while the gunshots echo down below on the streets, civilians screaming and running away, no bullets are fired towards them. Odd, Dazai mutters. Dropping to his stomach, he shimmies across the roof and peers over the edge, curious to see what the deal is here. He spies signature Port Mafia black, but that's it. He cannot tell who they are firing at. Kunikida joins him and makes a contemplative noise once he too clues in that they are not after Dazai. They lie on the edge of the rooftop, peering down to watch as the gunfire ceases. The Mafia grunts spread out to search the area, indicating they lost whoever it was they were after, and leave. In mutual agreement, Dazai and Kunikida climb down the fire escape to head back to the agency's dorms without completing the grocery shopping they were supposed to do. Passing an alley, Dazai spies a flash of orange out of the corner of his eye. When he turns his head, nothing is there. Five days later, Dazai finds himself in a similar situation, trapped up on a building alongside Kunikida, who seems to think climbing up onto rooftops is an excellent battle strategy. Something about angles and math stuff Dazai did not listen to. Except this time, they are the ones being shot at. How annoying. If this keeps up, then they should stop being the one chosen to get groceries. Any chance you do useful things? Dazai grumbles as Kunikida pulls a notebook out of his pocket. Of course, Kunikida replies. The armed detective agency would not hire those without any skill. I thought you said your skill was math, Dazai mumbles. Don't know how much that will help right now. Kunikida glares at him, pulls a grenade from his notebook, and chucks it at the Port Mafia goons crowding in on them. Oh, that's slightly better than throwing math at them, I guess. They hold their own decently well for about 2.5 minutes. Then Dazai spots one of the attackers get out a particular weapon and groans. Come on, why does everyone have their own bazooka these days? Jump! Kunikida grabs Dazai and drags him off the edge of the roof, opposite to the idiot with the bazooka. Kunikida snaps open pretty white and brown wings. Dazai shrieks and mentally curses Kunikida out for tossing him off a building. He does the smart thing and clamps a hand on Chuuya's hat to prevent it from falling. So what if he breaks his legs again? He's not losing Chuuya's hat. Dazai! He gets a single glimpse of Kunikida stretching a hand his way as if his wings could support them both. Then weight slams into him hard enough Dazai wheezes and his lungs forget to work. His vision goes black. Then, as his fingers brush something soft, he realizes he is not going unconscious at all. You idiot! A familiar voice rasps into his ear. Stop getting blown off buildings. Chuuya? Dazai stares at his partner, who, despite the dark circles under his eye and the fatigue making his muscles tremble, grins back like everything is going perfectly according to plan. A few hearty beats of Chuuya's wings carry them over the rooftop Kunikida has claimed his new perch, and it is only once they land that Dazai realizes Chuuya managed to carry an entire extra person with him. Think you can manage to stay here and not fall off another building if I leave for a minute to go kick their asses? Dazai grabs Chuuya's wrist when his partner goes to step off the roof. Well, see, I have bad depth perception, so it might be best if you stayed with me just in case. But, Chuuya, just this once, let's not win a fight. We're doing a tactile retreat, together, and we'll beat them next time. Chuuya teeters on the edge of the roof for a moment, biting his lip, then his gaze flicks back to Dazai's head and grins. Well, I guess we both need to get somewhere safe so you can give my hat back. Exactly. Who is this? Kunikida asks. His question goes ignored. Dazai sighs. Chibi, pick me up again. Fly as far, far away. I don't want to be near Kunikida anymore. Whenever we meet up to get groceries, we get attacked, so I think it's bad luck. Oh yes, he is the one that's unlucky. Makes sense. Chuuya rolls his eyes, but does oblige and scoops Dazai up as easily as ever. He flexes his wings, drawing Dazai's attention to them. "Wow, Chibi, your wings are a mess again," Dazai says, reaching over to smooth out a couple scapular feathers. "Yeah," Chuuya agrees. "Haven't had you to help around, so..." He shrugs. "Let's tackle that once we're somewhere safe." He glances Kunikida's way and offers a small nod. "Come on, Glasses, keep up." With that, Chuuya leaps off the rooftop, his wings carrying him and Dazai easily through the sky, leaving the Port Mafia members behind. When they get back to the dorms, everything needs to be rearranged to fit another person. Granted, since that person can control gravity, moving things around is a rather easy task. It is a bit difficult to dedicate time to preening Chuuya's wings when the kids are all crowded around him for the first hour or so, demanding answers as to where he had gone and why he went missing. That happens to be a question Dazai is also rather curious to get an answer to, which makes it extra frustrating when Chuuya placates the children with half-truths Dazai can see right through. Thankfully, Chuuya eventually excuses he and Dazai to go talk. Well, Chuuya sits on the floor and unfurls his messy wings, and Dazai gets the intent pretty quickly. Minutes into preening his partner's wings, Chuuya clears his throat. "Technically, I didn't lie. I did catch up to you guys. It just took a tad longer than expected." "Why?" Dazai asks. "What happened?" "More squadrons kept showing up and I was slowing down. Could feel our habaki wanting loose, so I bailed. Ran and hid like a coward. Had to stay low for a while to make sure I reach you without Mori catching on that this is where you are. But considering the Mafia was shooting at you and Blondie today, that ship has sailed." "I see," Dazai murmurs. "So I was right." "What?" "It was all Mori's fault." Chuuya pauses, thinking that over, then laughs. "Yeah, sure, why not? It's all Mori's fault." "Glad we are in agreement." Dazai takes the hat off his head and shoves it onto Chuuya's, back where it belongs. The next morning, Chuuya wakes Dazai at 6 so they can bake a cake together before Oda and the kids get up. It's a mess. Dazai gets ingredients everywhere, but they don't burn anything down. It ends up looking somewhat cake-shaped and is chocolate, so it's delicious. Bonus: Oda, Dazai, and Chuuya will join the ADA, and considering the significant firepower the three of them being to the team, the Port Mafia mostly leaves them alone. When Atsushi joins later, he and Oda become partners, and Atsushi slowly ends up adopted as a big brother to the other orphans. Francis, when he shows up to offer to buy their ability business permit, gets decked. Thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed, and don't forget to send kudos to the author through the link in the description. Hope you have a great week. Till next time.